Well, you'll see him then.
Okay, well, good morning. I want to start off by first thanking the members of the Solar Committee who put in a lot of valuable time into this proposed amendments to our current zoning. And at this time, I turn it over to Councilwoman Alexis Ogra.
Good morning, everybody. As Supervisor Marin said, this is not a one-person effort. This was done by our Victor Solar Task Force, and I too cannot thank everybody enough for all the hours we put in. It has been many, many months in the making. Can you go to the next slide? I'm not, is it at the podium? Oh, okay. Oh, no. There we go. Thank you. Let's see, because I've never used this. There we go. There we go. So just to start off with who is the Victor Solar Task Force, we have Keith, who's here in the audience as well, myself, Councilman Mike Guinan, Adam, one of our code enforcement officers, Robert Brenner, who is a local Victor resident, Mike Reinhardt, who is our Zoning Board of Appeals chairman, Wes Petty from Labella Associates, Frank Pavia, who's up here with us, and Scott Harder, who is on the planning board. So what are we addressing? The biggest thing we're addressing is large-scale solar power plants, large-scale solar fields, but we will not refer to them as farms. Farms are for food, farms are for our community. We're not harvesting food, we're harvesting power. So we think of them as more of an industrial use or, any other power plant. Okay. When we started our task force, we really set out to address not just, where I think was the biggest and, most prevalent question we were getting, but all sorts of other aspects of solar. And we really, it's more or less our first meeting, we narrowed it down to quite a few, but tried to make it concise points here that we would address, and something that we referred to many times going forward. The first is where and zoning. Second was risk management, so strengthening our definitions and other areas of code so they were not ambiguous, which is something that we ran into a few times when we were looking through the previous solar code. There were some areas that might have been up for interpretation. Protecting residential use solar, so this is if you wanted to use solar to power your own home on your own property, we did not want to disturb that right. Decommissioning, a panel recycling requirement that we looked at, who would have the final approval, pilot agreements, fee structure, and addressing battery storage, which actually came at the recommendation of the county planning board when they reviewed our 6-month moratorium. I think this is probably everybody's biggest question, so that's why I put it first, but the where. So everyone should have a map at their seat, but we also, Keith and Adam printed out a larger map if you need assistance looking at it. The blue area, the blue outline and the blue lines, that is where we have defined to be the solar overlay zoning district. So that would be large-scale solar. And you'll notice it's not all connected. There is a parcel, if you look more towards the bottom of the page there, that is not connected to the top. We really looked at more of an industrial use for the solar, where industrial businesses are currently zoned, et cetera. And then risk management, this one was really kind of more difficult, I'd say, to put into a concise slide because it was something that we did throughout the code. I know Frank as well as Mike, Keith and Adam really worked on this one very in-depth, and it was going through really every single definition in our code, every small aspect, just to make things taking out, as I like to say, the lawyer speak, and they, made it a little bit more concise. And then residential. So residential solar use is treated differently than large scale. You'll see it cited here as 211-60 for solar PV systems permitted by right. So these would be permitted by right. They would not need to come before the planning board like a large scale solar field would. And then decommissioning. Decommissioning is something that we spent quite a bit of time on, and when you think about decommissioning, if you don't already know what it is, that is the process of how do these solar fields, once they've reached the end of their life, come out of the ground. How do we bring that land back to what it was once before? And that's something that really we haven't, with solar, people haven't seen kind of come to fruition yet, because they have lives that are 25, some estimates 35 years, and the, solar power plants are quite new, right? They really haven't been around that long to see what will that look like down the road. There's not too many examples. So this is some place where we really wanted to strengthen the code and make sure that we were protecting the town as best as possible. We had seen a few examples where decommissioning has kind of gone wrong, or company has gone bankrupt, something like that, where it then falls on the town as to what happens. And this is where we, I think the biggest point to highlight here is an annual review. So the town board would have the right, after an annual review, to adjust the amount of surety to reflect any changes in the estimated cost of decommissioning and removal. That was to, give us the power to look at when we're making estimates about something, 25, 30 years down the road, we can take a very educated, I won't say guess, but analysis of what it may cost, but those costs may change down the road. How decommissioning is regulated by either the state or federal government may change down the road. So this allowed the town to keep up with that every year. Who will have approval? So you'll see up top, we have our wonderful town planning board, and then on the bottom, ourselves. Town planning board will go through, like they do most projects, a site plan approval, but at the end of the day, we'll kind of give the sign off on projects. Pilot agreements, and here's my one joke, no, not that kind of pilot. Thanks, Karen, for the laugh. Appreciate it. The one and only laugh. Got it. Payment in lieu of taxes. And I guess my other joke, TBD, is a town board decision. This is something that the task force, we wrangled with quite a bit. It is a changing evolution of how these fields are taxed. So previous to, I believe it was, someone could correct me, maybe 2022, 2023, there was not a property tax on them unless you instituted a pilot agreement. So for the added value of the solar array. Then the state changed it so that there is now an assessment formula for solar fields. And it is something that some towns have done, some have not. And we worked with Marlene on this one as well to kind of assess what would really be the best avenue. The other aspect too is that for payment in lieu of taxes, the state has changed the law now so that the pilot cannot be more than what the assessed value would be. So the other aspect as well is that for pilots, it's not something that is automatically goes to the county IDA like most other pilots, but it can be something that the town does on our own and negotiates that ourselves. And I'd say maybe prior to the assessment, that might have been where I would have chosen to go in my voice, but I think we kind of all came to the agreement of The assessment may be the best option for us now. This is something that we, as a board, would really need to kind of make a final decision on. Right now, our town code says that it would go through a pilot through the county IDA. But at this point, that would now be less than what the assessed value would be. But the other aspect is, when would the state come in, change the assessment code? It's an ever-changing field. So that's one where we don't have really a large formal recommendation, but one that I think gives more, we need more discussion from the town board on. And then fee structure, which we won't see, in your packets for a little while now. That'll be something that comes after the final solar code is passed. We did propose, though, and there should be a sheet, with just the sheet it's like a 10-page document, but I just printed out the one sheet for large-scale solar systems. It's also what's up on the screen, that there'd be a $150 fee, and then it would be $10 per kilowatt. And this was something, too, that kind of fell under risk management and strengthening definitions, whereas prior to this, it was, I guess, a little bit more up for interpretation as to how the fee structure worked. And then, large-scale battery storage. We did an outright ban is what we've proposed. And this is something that we looked at as well when we were looking at the town of Canandaigua recently changed their solar code. They too put in a outright ban. If you'll see from the photo there, back in 2023, there was an extremely large battery fire up in the North Country that took, I'd say, at least days to put out. Huge strain on local resources. And since then, it's really been something that it's one of those things that's almost too new for maybe us to explore. So we felt an outright ban for us right now would work. And questions?
And I apologize, because I think you touched on, has this been before the county planning board for review?
It is going towards the county planning, or Kim, or maybe Karen might know the full schedule. But we do not have comments back yet.
11.
11, yeah.
Can you just clarify that, so it sounds like it's a 100-foot lot line setback from residential, but it has to be 300 feet from an actual adjacent residential structure, is that right?
Yes, and I'll also pass it over to Keith and Adam if you guys want to chime in at all. Don't stop me. But yes, we did that to make sure we were,
I just wanted to make sure I read that
Yes.
properly, that it's 100 foot from the unit to the lot line is at
find
least 100 feet, but that it's at least 100 feet from the unit to the actual residential structure adjacent.
Correct, yeah, so in the overlay district, regardless of what the underlying zoning is or what underlying zoning is adjacent to the parcel, there's a 100-foot minimum setback. And then if there's a residential dwelling, it's not structure, so like barns,
don't count.
sheds, those things don't count. But 300 feet minimum setback to a residential dwelling would essentially would create a radius, from the nearest point of that dwelling, 300 feet, they couldn't be within that.
Thank you.
Okay.
So regarding the, back, if I could, back to the county planning board, we're, I think, going to have a public hearing on the 16th, and should we wait, will this be back from the county planning to take action, or are we going to take action meeting in 2025?
I think we had planned on.
We
first
can't
meeting.
take action until the 239M referral is done and we hear back from the county planning board. That happens on the 11th, Kim? We also have to make a determination, excuse me, under seeker, which you have, I don't know if you've been given, but Part 1 of the EAF has been prepared for the passage of the law. Part 2 and 3 would have to be completed in a determination of significance. Likely a negative declaration would have to be made by this board before it could actually act on passing the law. And of course, the public hearing would have to occur and be completed before a vote would be taken on the proposed amended law.
We're into January, anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct. I mean, I fairly confident that the 239M and the secret determination, the public hearing, that could be all wrapped up by the 16th, which is next Monday. And then from there, it's a question, it's likely probably be January when you would take a vote on the law.
Okay, thank you. And compliment to the committee, the decommissioning, certainly having language in there for potentially escalating costs to decommission. Certainly hard to forecast what 25, 30 years could be, but the fact that there is language there. And I'll be honest, Alexis, I'm always going to look at pilot agreements in a whole different light right after seeing that picture up there. So dropping a quarter in the jukebox at the end of the movie, I guess, so. My recollection. Thank you.
I think in the simplest terms, for this town board's purpose, under this proposed law, the special use permit that every large-scale solar facility needs to require would be issued by this board, and the decommissioning plan and the surety would have to be approved and signed off by this board.
I have no further questions. Any other questions? Any questions at all?
I don't have a question. I just want to thank Keith and Adam. I mean, Alexis did a tremendous amount of work, but these guys came to every meeting and
Yeah.
they did a tremendous job. They had all the answers before we asked the questions. I think they answered us before we got the whole sentence out. They did a lot of research, a lot of background, and they did a great job. So I thank you two guys for everything you did. It was a great effort on your part.
As far as next Monday, I would just proceed with this presentation. I don't think it's, not that it's significant and time-consuming and everything like that, so open the public hearing, present this, and then we'll take comments from the public and proceed accordingly. Any other comments? No? Closing comments by any members of the committee?
Thank you.
Okay,
Time this morning.
thank you, everyone. Workshop is now closed.